All right. Well, good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our second Ideas to Invention webinar spotlighting young inventors in California. My name is Chinwe Ohanale Agu, pronouns she and hers, and I serve as the Senior Program Manager for the Michelson Institute for Intellectual Property, which is a Michelson 20mm Foundation initiative. Today's webinar is the second event in celebration of IP Awareness Month, which California is celebrating for the first time this year, thanks to the passage of Senate Resolution 106. We are excited to close out the month the way that we started it, with student innovators. We at Michelson IP strongly believe that invention is something that all people can do, but more importantly, it's something that young people are already doing. They are sensitive to the challenges in our communities, but also they have the passion and drive to help us identify the solutions. Now, at the heart of Michelson Institute for Intellectual Property is the effort and desire to diversify the innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem by ensuring that more people are aware of the value of their creations. We are committed to democratizing IP education to ensure that all people from all backgrounds are able to identify their IP, register it, and build generational wealth for themselves and their communities. That is why we are committed to partnering with educational institutions in the K through 12 space, 2 and 4 year institutions, as well as organizations like Lemelson and MIT. This is all to make sure that people from all ages and walks of life are exposed to intellectual property education. To get the word out on the value of IP, we must meet people where they are as they are creating to ensure that their stories are told and their creations remain their own. Now, as you listen to the incredible stories of our panelists and student inventors, we are sure you will have lots of comments and questions. So we invite you to join the discussion using the chat. However, if you have any questions for our panelists, we ask that you use the Q&A feature. That way we make sure that we see your questions and get them answered. Additionally, as we look to expand our webinar offerings, we truly appreciate your feedback. So we will be sharing some polls throughout the event to ensure that we're capturing and continuing the things that you like and evolving the programming to improve the areas that may need some tweaking. So here's the first poll. So this will let us know who's in the room, how familiar you are with IP generally, and give us a pulse before we kind of start today's discussion. Now, while you're working on the poll, I think it's important to mention that no effort that has true impact can be done alone. So with the Michelson Institute for Intellectual Property, we're proud to work with some incredible partners who we'd like to thank for helping make today's webinar possible, namely the California IP Alliance and the US IP Alliance. This afternoon, we are so lucky to be joined by some of our wonderful partners who helped make this happen. So we'd love to hear a few words from them. First, our co-host and partner, California IP Alliance, is represented today by ERIK Johnson. Now, ERIK Johnson is an intellectual property strategist and licensing professional with 20+ years experience and recognized by IAM's Strategy 300 World's Leading IP Strategists in 2021. ERIK has represented and worked closely with the University of California, San Diego's Office of Innovation, as well as Orange, a top 10 cellular provider worldwide, for development, execution, and growth of licensing initiatives to drive global business development across diverse markets. ERIK, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chinwe. I'm excited to kick off this webinar and briefly introduce the California Intellectual Property Alliance, or CAIPA. As a nonprofit, we've been founded with the goal of making all Californians aware of the benefits that IP can provide them through IP awareness and education, greater IP ecosystem collaboration, as well as promoting greater diversity and inclusion within the field of IP. I think today's webinar exemplifies these opportunities by following Calistoga's journey as a Lemelson MIT InvenTeam, their collaboration with their patent attorney, ALISHA, to protect their ideas, and the exposure this process provided the students to the different career paths that might be open to them, ranging from STEM, business, and legal. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to the team at Michelson IP for putting this webinar together, and Limmelson MIT and the group of students at Calistoga. It's tremendous to get to hear your journey, and I look forward to the webinar.
Thank you so much, Eric. Now we'd love to move on to the driving force behind the national effort to bring IP to the forefront of everyone's minds, the U.S. IP Alliance, which is represented by Mauricio Uribe. Mauricio is the chair of the Data Privacy and Protection Practice Group at and the former chair of the Software IT and Electrical Practice Group at Kenobi Martin. Mauricio is well versed in patent prosecution matters and portfolio development, especially in software, electrical, and telecommunications technologies. For more than 15 years, Mauricio has engaged in numerous licensing strategy and license negotiations for various clients, including standard essential patent licensing matters. Mauricio has helped clients set up licensing programs, identify and cultivate essential patent assets, develop responses to licensing offers, and develop holistic licensing programs. Mauricio is also a frequent lecturer on licensing topics, including data privacy and protection, standards, essentials, patents, licensing programs, non-disclosure agreements, employment agreements, open source software, etc. Mauricio is also a thought leader and frequent lecturer and author on various patent and copyright topics, as well as emerging technologies like AI, trade secret, and additional IP topics. Welcome, Mauricio.
Thank you, Chinwe. First of all, congratulations and happy October IP Month, everyone. It's certainly my honor and pleasure to be here today and participate in this wonderful educational program and really a celebration of IP. So congratulations to California as a whole, and then for each of you that's joining this seminar today. I think it's just a fantastic that you're applying your energy today, and I really do hope that this is the start of a lifetime of innovation for each of you. It is the lifeblood of our community, and you make the world a better place by innovating across so many different levels. So thank you for that. I want to build on what Eric said. Just as a representative of US IPA, one of the wonderful hallmarks of our organization is the IP network of network concepts, and you see it front and center today with Michelson IP, Limmelson MIT, California IPA. Everyone is working together to promote education, to promote diversity, to really collaborate together. And I think this is as much of an exemplary interaction as you can find. So again, kudos for all of you being part of the IP community. And then on a personal level, I know you have wonderful panelists today. Should any of you students or adults, anyone attending today, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to contact me. I'm more than happy to help along your journey. So have a great seminar. Really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to chat and love to be a part of this. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much for your remarks, Mauricio. Finally, I would like to invite my boss and the Chief Operating Officer of Michelson 20mm Foundation, Ms. Myra Lambera, to share a few words. Myra provides strategic oversight to the Michelson 20mm Foundation's portfolio of initiatives and leads its operations in her role. In her role, she oversees the deployment of Michelson 20mm's philanthropic capital to help the foundation realize its vision of advancing an equity-centered agenda in support of Latinx, Black, Indigenous, and low-income individuals pursuing post-secondary education. Now, before Myra joined Michelson 20mm, she was a middle school humanities teacher in East Los Angeles. And as a first-generation college student, she is committed to supporting promising students from historically marginalized and disadvantaged communities to access equitable opportunities to higher education.
Thank you so much, Chinwe, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Just a little bit about the Michelson 20 Million Minds Foundation, the organization that houses the Michelson IP initiative. So Michelson 20mm is a private nonprofit foundation that was founded in 2010 thanks to the generous support of renowned spinal surgeon, inventor, and philanthropist Dr. Gary Michelson and his wife, Alia Michelson. Since its founding, Michelson 20mm has been committed to advancing an equity agenda that supports, as Chinwe mentioned, historically underrepresented and underserved individuals. We truly believe that higher education and employment opportunities should be available to all. and we're committed to addressing and overcoming the systemic barriers that have hindered communities from fully thriving. To do that, we work across 5 verticals, pretty expansive verticals: digital equity, smart justice, student basic needs, open educational resources, and what we're all here for today, intellectual property. The intellectual property work is housed under the Michelson IP Institute, and we've been working to democratize access to IP education for a number of years now. We provide resources, support, community as the community that we have brought together today, and it's really a pleasure to be here and be part of Intellectual Property Awareness Month to continue to figure out how we activate, empower, and work with this demographic and all of you. So thank you so much, Chinwe, for being the powerhouse that is helping us put together this incredible event.
Thank you so much, Myra. So without further ado, the moment we've all been waiting for, I'm incredibly excited to introduce you to our wonderful panelists. So I'm going to introduce them one at a time while they come up on stage. First, we have BEATRIX Webb. BEATRIX is a member of the Calistoga High School, Lemelson MIT InvenTeam, and a high school student in rural Northern California. She found her love of engineering at the American Association of University Women summer program called Tech Trek in the summer of 2022, and has been following her passion ever since. On the InvenTeam, she specialized in patent drafting and computer-assisted design. She was the one to draft the patent application for the team's first invention with Akona IP, a smart wearable cooling device. Today, they are patent pending. While not inventing, she loves spending time outdoors, drawing, and volunteering at her middle school's after-school program. Welcome, BEATRIX. Next, we have ELIAS. ELIAS Escobar is a junior at Calistoga Senior High School. He was born in El Salvador and lived there until he was 11 years old. ELIAS has lived in California for 6 years and learned English as a second language. During these 6 years, he's been introduced to inventing and engineering through many programs like the Engineering Club and participating in the San Jose Museum Tech Challenges. He became part of the Calistoga Lemelson MIT InvenTeam and participated in the 2024 Eureka Fest at MIT School of Engineering. He is the lead engineer for his team and worked on many aspects of the invention that is now patent pending. When he is not in engineering, he enjoys playing video games and board games, learning and creating technology, mountain biking, cooking, reading, and working out. And he also made a recent trip to the White House, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. Lastly, we are joined by ALISHA FEUSTEL from Akona IP. ALISHA has extensive experience in all aspects of intellectual property law, including prosecution and portfolio management, litigation, and licensing. Her diverse background stems from practicing law at one of the nation's premier law firms and from working as in-house IP counsel at multiple companies. ALISHA focuses her practice on strategically developing patent portfolios. This includes procuring client patent rights through U.S. and foreign prosecution, performing due diligence to acquire third-party patents, preparing freedom to operate opinions, and conducting patent validity and infringement analyses. She has advised clients in a variety of technologies, including semiconductors, electro-optic displays, video game consoles, medical devices, charged pigment particles, and biocompatible solutions. I'm glad I got through all of those words. ALISHA works closely with engineers to capture patentable concepts and to further develop ideas into patentable inventions. Working with inventors on patent applications is a favorite part of her job. Please join me in welcoming our student and attorney panelists, BEATRIX, ELIAS, and ALISHA. Feel free to turn on your cameras so that everyone can see you. Fantastic. All right. So I always like to start with the students because one, you guys are kind of the rock stars today and you are the inventors. So Maybe we'll start with Beatrix first and then head over to Elias. But what made you want to join the Invent team at your school? What was that initial spark or interest?
As I meant, well, as you mentioned in my introduction, I'd already kind of been sparked to get into engineering by the Tech Trek summer camp. And then when my school counselor suggested the idea of joining this class, I really wanted to do that both so I could explore engineering more and also to connect to my school community and the people who I already knew were doing engineering there more.
And before Elias Hobson, what was it about the Tech Trek Week that really got you interested in engineering?
The Tech Trek week was really the first time where I had experienced the school-like thing, and this was in my summer after seventh grade. A school-like thing where there were people around me who really wanted to be doing school and really wanted to be going into engineering. So it felt like everything there was a perfect opportunity to start a new thing. And thankfully, I got randomly placed into the engineering program there. And my engineering teacher was incredible. In just 5 days, I had discovered like engineering is something I can do. Engineering is exciting to me. And engineering is something that isn't something just for adults or something far out of my reach.
Very cool. Elias, what about you?
Well, I was the lead engineer for our invent team, but also like Beatrix, I had, and you mentioned I had done like engineering before, like elementary with the Boys and Girls Club, and even like middle school through like the San Jose Tech Challenges. I remember what was so fun about it is just me being with my friends, being able to just like think about like solutions. Like, okay, so we have this for the San Jose Tech Challenge that year was to make a hovercraft. And part of it was like, how can we make it float by like using like fans? But like we also need part of the challenge for that year was you have to be able to put some weight on it and carry it through like obstacles. Like how can we make it shift? And it's just like thinking with my friends like that was like so fun, interesting, and then like we just continued through it, and now here I am.
Awesome. Love both of your origin stories, how they have to do with, being in a fun environment that kind of makes engineering more exciting, I think, than maybe you might think normally. So now once you get involved in the program, you're part of the Invent team. What was it like to come up with the invention? And maybe this is for you, Elias, since it seems like you were the lead engineer for that project.
Yeah, coming up with the idea, it on the summer before school started, when we were actually gonna work on our device, we went through like a week of like engineering class, and then we also interviewed a community members. We interviewed like the fire department, the police department, other non-profit organizations that work with like the Napa Valley River. I remember that one. And then a common theme popped up, and it was among the firefighters. They said that they were getting overheated. They were in heat stress. And then that's how we like thought about like how can we make a device that will help them do that. And then we went through like several like paper like prototypes. Like I remember Miss Brooks told us like, okay guys, let's like come up with an idea. What could we like invent and what would it look like? Like our final goal, like the dream item that but that's the process. And while inventing it, it was just trial and error, trial and error. What can we buy? Okay, that didn't work. What's another thing that we can buy that works what we wanted to do? That whole concept doesn't work. Let's scratch it. Let's start again. But we know what we want to do. We know what we've learned and how can we just implement it. And then we just kept on doing that till we went to Eureka Fest.
Awesome. And Beatrix, maybe a slightly different question for you. How was the process maybe different from the Tech Week? Sort of everything that Elias kind of shared about the Invent team and iterating to find the concept. Was it similar or different? How did you find the experience?
I found the experience very different because at the Tech Trek, it was a summer camp definitely designed to introduce you to different areas of science. In my case, I got engineering. So in Tech Trek, it was everything was definitely possible, and there's definitely a way to get to it in a certain amount of time. Being on the InvenTeam was seeing a deadline and knowing we had to get there, but not knowing how we were going to get there, if it was possible to get there. And it was really going from just riding a bike with training wheels to like riding down a mountain on a mountain bike or something like that. And but it was really fun in both times for different reasons. And also, I would recommend anyone who is in 7th grade right now to look into Tech Trek if you're in California, because it's an incredible experience, and I'm pretty sure you can still apply.
Love that. It's great that you had such a wonderful experience that you would even encourage other people to attend. So it sounds like from both of what you're saying, you come up with this idea, you're not really sure what the end solution is, and you're kind of trying to figure out how to get to something new, right? That's going to be beneficial. But from what I understand, your invent team is many students. How many students are in your invent team?
We had 32 people on our team.
So with 32 people, I don't know the last time any of you did a big group project, but I remember the last time I did one, it was pretty hard. I can't even imagine with 32 students. How did you guys figure out, okay, this is how we're going to, pick this? And then how did you iterate with 32 people to get to your final product?
Yeah, I feel it was interesting working alongside 32 of my peers, but how Ms. Briggs made it is that it was like a company. We had our engineering side, which was I was the lead of that part, and then there was also like the technology side, which like worked with like all the components, sensors. There's also like textile parts that we're working on with like actual like fabrics because it's a portable device. So how we were thinking like how can we make it portable, usable, recyclable, and things like that. And then we just had people working for our media group because we got everybody to the Eureka Fest, and that wasn't cheap. We raised a total of $200,000, and that wasn't me. That was our media group that was doing the fundraising, like Instagram, GoFundMe, and then we just their connections are in newsletters. We were like in the news many times. They were that part. Our part, at least for me, was working with my team, making sure that we were getting our items like working, and then like I said before, 32 people, not everybody was like on the device. And some people are working with some components, making like trying to make their part, but sometimes that didn't work. We scratched it, we like cut it off, join us over here. This is actually working, help us over here. And then like it just became like that way until we got a functioning prototype, but we had two. We needed two because we had two inventions. I think we put two patents, and one was firefighters, one was agriculture. So then that group again got cut in half so that we can work on both devices at one time.
Wow. So just in talking to you, I learned something new that you basically had all these different departments that you kind of assigned different people to, and even did like a really big fundraise. So now I'm curious, Beatrix, on your side, Elias is over here on the engineering side, building stuff. What role were you in? And, how did you feel that the collaboration, was kind of working from the, I guess, the department that you were in?
I think my experience in the organization of the class was actually a pretty good example of how the organization changed over time. Because I started as just the CAD specialist and I was working with the tech team, but at that point there wasn't really much CAD to do, so I was working with the tech team for about the first half of the year. And then kind of as things got more intense, we learned that because the person who was planning on doing patents got so involved in fundraising that became my job. So then I kind of in the mad dash to the finish, I ended up kind of just going alone on the patents, both because a personal flaw of mine is that I'm not the best at asking for help and collaborating, and especially when there was so much going on, it kind of just got left to me. So I went from a group of about 5 people working on tech to just me and a couple other people who are also doing other things for the patent. And definitely during the end, it kind of fell apart a little bit, but we made it there anyway.
There's so much in what you shared, not only just the personal reflection in terms of, navigating the patents, but also how the project evolved over time and, being able to sort of pick up a piece that, might have gotten left to the side. But I'd love to kind of hear how your team or your department decided you were going to file a patent, or it sounds like you filed 2. Because I mean, I don't know, do you set out with the project saying you're going to file a patent, or at some point do you say, oh, I think we have something here, let's go ahead and try and file one?
We did start out with the idea of getting a patent because with the InvenTeam program, we knew that we would be funded for a patent. And our mindset was kind of, if we have the possibility to get a patent and we have all this this massive opportunity to get a patent filed for free, we have to take this. So there was nothing ever saying, oh, maybe we shouldn't patent. It was only, what are we going to patent?
Interesting. So it was almost like, because you knew that it was going to be paid for, it was now an incentive. Like, I've got to, make use of this resource, essentially, right? So kind of talking about the patent process, what was it like working on the application with ALISHA?
As I mentioned, it was a mad dash to the finish. So it was a lot of figuring out as I was working on it. Our class was given a book by Michelson and MIT on patenting. So it was a lot of, I have this book, I have a thing to patent, and I'm going to figure out how to write a patent application by doing it. And then that was the provisional patent application. Once we started working with ALISHA, she helped so much in figuring out, like, making baby's first patent application something that could actually work. And despite it was a lot of tight deadlines in the end, it worked out great for all of us. And I mean, we're patent pending, so clearly we did it right.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great point to kind of transition to hear from ALISHA. How did your firm get involved with the InvenTeam program and decide that you were going to support the Calistoga team?
So I work at Akona IP. I founded, I'm a partner there. It's a virtual law firm. And it's a group of us that actually had worked previously together at other different law firms that we started this firm. So one of our other founders, her name is Shirley Fung, she used to work at the Lemelson MIT program when she was in college. So we're all much older now. So that was many, many years ago. But she's kept in touch with one of the people who were involved with that. Her name is Leah Estabrooks. And so she runs these InvenTeam grants and was looking for help for patents, for people to write patents. So she brought that pro bono opportunity to us as a firm. And I had bandwidth, plus I'm a chemical engineer with a lot of mechanical engineering experience. So I was kind of the person who was the best fit for this work anyway. So that's how we actually got involved. And I'm really actually excited that we got involved with this. It's just been a really great experience. So.
I mean, glowing remarks from the students in terms of working with you, but it'd be great to hear from your perspective what it was like working with them. Maybe some things that you were surprised about, or some things that you were excited about in terms of working with high school students on filing their patent.
So the one thing I will say is I was really surprised at how patent savvy and knowledgeable the students were. Beatrix, I worked with Beatrix mostly because she was kind of the point person for that information, but a lot of the other students also knew exactly what a patent is, how a patent works. There is a little bit difference between the language that we use as patent attorneys. We definitely have patentees. But I will say that the first draft, the provisional application, the figures, they were actually really phenomenal. And a lot of that information I was able to use and kind of transfer into a final package of our patent application. So, you know, first and foremost, just kudos to them for really kind of jumping in and understanding and learning about patents and the patent process and what it is and what it takes. Secondly, jumping in and doing a first draft. It's really hard to start from a blank page, especially when you're drafting a patent application. I mean, that's even difficult for us now when we do it all the time, right? So kudos to them for really just being fearless and jumping in and learning and doing. The other thing is, in terms of the invention itself, it's a very complicated invention. There's a lot of different technologies that they actually had to learn and develop and understand. And I will have to say, they're really also fearless in terms of learning. You know, they were really focused on solving the problem and doing something for the betterment of the firefighters, and then also for the betterment of, you know, the agricultural workers. So they actually were very focused on solving a problem. And anytime they had a hiccup or anytime that they needed to reinvent or reassess or redevelop, they did. Because I think I've heard a lot of those stories as they were working through that process. And I know that they were still trying to fine tune things, like, you know, the hours before they were leaving for the airport. So it's something that they kind of jumped into and continued to do even up to the last minute. You know, perfection was kind of their goal, and I think they achieved that. So that is actually really exceptional as well. So in terms of being creative problem solvers and critical thinkers, I think that they are exceptional, not just from the patent perspective and the engineering perspective, but also from the problem solving perspective. So
that's amazing. And for those who don't know, because we've mentioned this a couple of times, provisional patent, patent pending, you know, what's really the difference between what the students did the first time with the provisional patent and then maybe the filing of the actual patent?
So the provisional patent, I'm not sure was ever filed. It was something that was just a draft that was presented to me from BEATRIX and from the students in terms of what they were identifying as their knowledge and understanding of what the inventive elements were for their invention. So we didn't file the provisional patent. What we decided to do was just file a non-provisional patent. So a provisional patent would be something that would be filed as a placeholder, and then you can claim priority back to it for your invention. Doesn't usually have claims. It's a very kind of simple explanation about what the invention is. And then a non-provisional is an application that provides more details. It will have claims to it, and it's what gets examined by the U.S. Patent Office to actually get a patent issued.
Awesome. Thank you for you know, explaining that, because I'm sure that people who hear these terms, you know, you don't really know what the difference is, what it means, but it's a huge deal that these students now have a patent pending for this invention that they've created. And I'm kind of wondering, maybe from both of your perspectives, you know, what is the next step? You know, you have a patent pending. What does that mean for the invention that you've created now? Maybe the students want to go first?
On our side, I think we are continuing to do other stuff with the InvenTeam, but as the patent is concerned, it's just wait. It takes a few years for the patent application to become a real patent, and we, as far as I know, we're really not doing anything until then with the patent.
So while you're waiting, you said that you're doing some other things with the InvenTeam. What are some other things that you guys are working on?
One thing that we're just in the beginning stages of doing is we're trying to apply to some other competitions, and ELIAS this summer is probably going to be doing a summer program at MIT. So things like that, things that some of our students are doing to jump off of the InvenTeam and keep doing stuff.
Okay. So if you were to talk to, and I'll come back to you, Alicia, if you were to talk to other attorneys about this experience, what's something you wish you could tell them that, you know, maybe you didn't know coming into the program?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
I will say that it's an exceptional experience. I really do like the fact that, Heather Brooks was very key about providing information and corralling information and giving point people for information. That's very important. Dealing with 32 inventors is a lot. That's a lot of people. There are a lot of documents that have to be signed. There's a lot of information, that has to be provided to the inventors and then returned to us. So in terms of that aspect, it's usually a lot bigger of a group of inventors than I've really had to deal with before. So definitely getting organized in that regard takes a lot of time, effort, energy, and planning. The other thing is that the students are very knowledgeable. They answered all of my questions. They know their invention. They know their technology. They never were at a loss for, oh, I'm not sure, let me find out. But if they were, I know that they would go find the answer and come back to me with that. So great clients, some of the best clients I've ever had. Very responsive, very in tune with answering the questions that I was asking, not giving a lot of extra superfluous information that was unnecessary, and always doing it in a timely manner. So kudos to them.
Awesome, awesome. And what about you, Beatrix and Elias? What would you tell students who maybe have not gone through the InvenTeam program, never done any of the engineering sort of experiences that you've had? What do you wish you could tell them?
I'm often trying to get my friends to join our inventing program at school, and the thing that I hear the most common is like, oh, well, I'm not an inventor, so I can't do it. But I think what I would tell them is I would struggle to call myself an inventor now, and I definitely wouldn't have at the beginning of the year. So it's really not a thing you are and then you do, it's a thing you do and then you are, and you learn it as you go.
Love that.
Yeah, I feel like also Beatrix, if I'm talking to you, I believe in you, and anyone can do it. And I we are asked this question, it's like, are inventions made or born? And they are absolutely made. Just look at me. Like, I believe that if you like have any interest in like anything, it somehow correlates to engineering. And you can even go to the White House, you know.
I love that little plug there because we would love to hear about your trip to the White House. What happened? What spurred that on?
It was a like last minute thing. It wasn't like Eureka Fest that we knew like a year in advance. It was because October is Hispanic Heritage Month, and they wanted, or the Department of Education wanted to host a panel on like people that are like Hispanic and I want to tell them the story. And they let Christina pick. She works with Michelson MIT, and she thought of me as a Hispanic student that went through the Michelson MIT, the InvenTeam process, and has a cool story. So they flew me out to the Department of Education to the panel that happened on Wednesday, October 9th, I believe. And I talked all about how the InvenTeam has changed my life. It not only has made me believe in myself, but also believe in how it can affect everybody, like not just Hispanic students, but anybody that wants to do it. As long as it's like in your mind, you can do anything that includes making a whole device that is patent pending and might eventually get a patent. So that was what I was there for, to tell my story, who I am, and what I've done.
That's amazing. That's really, really awesome. Congratulations. And, it's a really big deal to be able to do that at such a young age and have that experience. But I think the most impressive thing is just your mindset and the way that you're able to communicate like what is possible, not just for you, but other students like you. And I'm sure that there are a lot of young people, looking up to you and appreciating your willingness to, share your experience. So way to go. Um, Beatrix, since Elias went ahead and answered my question about whether or not this program changed his life, um, what would you say? Do you feel like being part of the Invent team has had a significant impact on your life? Has it transformed anything about you or helped you learn anything about yourself?
It definitely has in similar ways to him. Like, I feel more confident in myself now that I've done something that can't be explained away. Like, I'm part of a group that's patent pending. And also, it's definitely made me more connected to the people around me, and it's given me a lot of opportunities like this that have um, let me get my voice out there, and I really appreciate that. And I'm so grateful to all the opportunities that this program, and especially our teacher, Heather Brooks, has given us, because I just cannot say enough how crucial she was to this project and how none of us would be here without her, and just how incredible she is.
So I love that you are shouting out Miss Brooks, because when you all came out for IP Day, so just so everyone knows, when we did the IP Day at the Capitol in Sacramento, you all came up from your school, and I think you traveled the furthest than all of the other schools. You got up super early, you got there on time. I think you got there before everybody else. And from the moment you got there to the moment you left, Miss Brooks was probably the biggest advocate for your invent team I've ever seen. Just talking about your inventions, how amazing you guys are. So definitely two thumbs up there. Ms. Brooks is an incredible advocate for you guys. So I love that the feeling is mutual from student to teacher. So I want to give you guys a chance to say any last things you feel, if you were to say one maybe piece of advice for someone who's maybe thinking about participating, who's on the fence. What's something that you would say to someone either about this experience or the program in general, to maybe get them off the fence? Maybe we'll start with ALISHA.
So I would say science engineering is fun. It's interesting. It's wonderful. A lot of what we do on a daily basis includes it being problem solvers, figuring out how to move something, figuring out how to cook something. So I would say don't be afraid of that, because it is a fun, wonderful experience. We, as a patent attorneys, for me, we were all engineers first, right? So everybody who works in patent law now at one time was an engineer and worked as an engineer. And so you don't have to be an engineer for the rest of your life. There's a lot of other job opportunities that you can have, but knowing how to think, knowing how to be a problem solver, knowing to be a critical observer, those are all things that you learn as part of engineering and science. And those are important skills to have in any aspect of life. So go for it, just do it.
Love that. All right. What about you, Beatrix?
I think it just all comes down to the fact that it's fun, and if you like the people you're going to be doing it with, and if you like the process of making something new, you're going to have fun, and that is all that matters in the long run.
Awesome. Last but not least, Elias.
I would say that a piece of advice I would give to people thinking or even just watching this is that if you're a human, you have the human will to do anything. And like Alicia said, engineering, you don't have to stick with it, but engineering has the core foundations of math, and math is in any field of any career that's in the world. You're a doctor, you're doing math. You're a accountant, you're doing math. You're out there doing math. And engineering is just the more fun math, the applied math. At least for me, it was. And my advice is just do it. It's fun.
I love how we ended on a just do it note. Amazing. And also a resounding support for math. I'm sure there are teachers in here who are very happy about hearing how fun math is and applied math. But overall, I'm sure everyone can agree with me. This was an amazing conversation. So first, I'd like to say, thank you to our panelists. This has been a fantastic conversation. I know that the comment section has probably been going wild the entire time. I want to applaud and acknowledge the Calistoga junior and high school. Heather Brooks, we've sang your praises. Definitely want to, say again a big thank you as the supervising educator for this program and strong advocate for your students. The whole student invent team at Calistoga, ALISHA, and Lemelson MIT. I'm sure we can all agree that the combined efforts of all these individuals and organizations created an incredible outcome and a really, really heartfelt and insightful session. So before we get into the Q&A, because I don't know, I have a feeling there might be some questions that are popping up here. We're going to do another quick poll. So we started by asking who's in the room and what you all knew about IP and the role it plays. Now that we've had this inspiring conversation, we want to see what you got out of it. So I'm going to check the Q&A box right now, see if there are any questions. Feel free to pop them in there. So while people get any questions that they have in there, I want to ask the students, I know that going into this program, you knew that you could file a patent, but did you know going in that that this expression of your ideas could be protected and would have value?
I don't think we knew what our expression of the ideas were at that point. We knew what we wanted to make, but we had no idea what it was we were going to make. And we knew that something could be patented, and if we avoided current stuff enough, we could probably patent our thing.
That's interesting. So part of your strategy, even in your iteration and your design and engineering, was knowing that you needed to avoid some current technology to increase your chances of filing a patent. Does that sound correct? So if that's true, how did you avoid that? I mean, it's not like you have all of the world's patents in your head. How did you figure out what stuff you were going to avoid?
One of our classmates, Erin, did a lot of this in the beginning, where once we were figuring out what we wanted to do, we did a lot of looking at patents that had already been filed, both to get our own ideas and to know that we weren't making something that already existed.
Interesting. That's really, really cool. And so now that you've gone through this process with a team of 32 people, which is still mind-blowing. That's like the biggest team project I've ever heard of. Do you think you'll create more inventions in the future?
I think we should both answer this one. I think I'll definitely be on the lookout for more opportunities like this, and I could definitely see myself going to school in something similar, which would definitely involve inventing more.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree with Beatrix. If I have an amazing team as I did for my invent team, I would absolutely jump into the option of doing it. And like Beatrix, I also see myself potentially doing this as like my future, even if I don't have such an amazing team, but anything is possible again. So it'll be fun.
Awesome. So we do have a question, and I don't know if you guys have talked about this or if the school has talked about this, but the question is, how will you share licensing and royalty income? Will you distribute more to inventors with the most claims? Will you distribute the income equally or evenly? I I do know that you have a patent pending, but I don't think you guys talked about anything related to licensing or marketing. So have you guys talked about that at all?
I haven't been involved in any conversations so far. We've only all been joking that we're going to become millionaires once the patent goes through.
I love that. That's great.
We as the 32 people that are whose names are in the patent.
Love that. That's great. I guess I'll leave this last question with you, ALISHA. How does working with InvenTeams change the way you practice and maybe the work that you do with your everyday clients, if at all?
You know, it's interesting because I still do a lot of this work with my clients on a daily basis. So I'm not sure if there's been a change in that, but the one thing that I really enjoy about patents is teaching people about patents. And so having people who are really interested in understanding patents and how patents work and how licensing works and how joint inventors work and co-ownership works is a lot of fun. And I get more of an opportunity to do more teaching and training about patents. One of the things that we haven't talked about that I haven't trained them on yet is licensing and ownership, patent ownership, especially with co-inventors. We still have some years ahead of us, but there are things that they still have, if they have questions about, you know, that I would love to help them learn about and be knowledgeable about. So in that aspect, I think there is more to be learned, more to be taught, and more for us to do with this one patent. We haven't talked about prototypes. We haven't talked about, you know, whether or not they're going to go into production, whether or not they're going to, you know, sell it. So, but there are hopefully opportunities, especially as we get through prosecution work, for us to do more of that type of development and knowledge and understanding, which I don't get a chance to do with my current clients.
That's awesome. So you get to start the journey with them much sooner, educate, and then, you know, kind of walk the journey with them into the future, which is awesome. Well, thank you all. Thank you all so much for answering these questions, the audience for your attention. We hope that you agree that today's discussion was insightful and inspiring. I also hope that you walk away from today's event informed and better equipped to support students like this with their invent teams and their programs. Ideas to Invention was a collaboration between the Michelson Institute for Intellectual Property and which is a Michelson 20mm Foundation initiative, and the California IP Alliance as part of IP Awareness Month programming. As we mentioned at the top of the hour, it was thanks to Senate Resolution 106 that allowed us to celebrate IP Awareness Month for the first time here in California. And we felt there was no better way to celebrate that than to spotlight the future of innovation, young students who are creating the world as we speak. We'd love to thank our partners and collaborators, California IP Alliance, US IP Alliance, and Lemelson MIT for your support for the Senate resolution and this program today. Now, this webinar will conclude our October IP Awareness Month programming. We hope that you enjoyed the stories we have shared, not only here in the webinar, but also in our newsletters, our blog posts, but definitely of our incredible student inventors. Here at Michelson IP, we don't just celebrate IP in October, we celebrate it year round. That is why at the beginning of November on the 7th, we will be hosting an in-person event here in Los Angeles, for those of you in the area, at the Beehive. And that event is called Protect Your Story. And so that event will launch a series where we will be highlighting how intellectual property intersects with different industries and impacts the California economy. We hope to elevate local IP heroes and empower those who are on the rise with inspirational stories and educational resources. Now, that event will be a full-day summit that you really don't want to miss. So registration information for Protect Your Story can be found via the link that's been dropped in the chat and will be shared via email after the session. So if you're curious about that, check that out. Now, if you're curious about InvenTeams and the Lemelson MIT program, I'm sure you've been inspired by this and also the first session. We'll also be sharing helpful information for those who want to bring the spirit of invention to your school or your region. And then also, if you're an attorney, this is actually a real need because not all of the regions have access to wonderful attorneys like ALISHA who can help students shepherd their ideas into the patent process. So if you're looking to support student inventors, please reach out to the Lemelson community or Lemelson MIT and communicate your interest. Because that's how they can help you partner with students in your region. Now, the recording for today's discussion will be posted on our YouTube channel and later on our resource hub, which you can find on the michelsonip.com website. The link will also be dropped in the chat and will be shared via email, which I mentioned earlier. If you want to learn more about our work in the intellectual property space, you can visit our website using the same link. Additionally, if you or your organization wants to work with us and support the democratization of IP education and diversifying the IP innovation ecosystem, please reach out. My email address is chinwe@20mm.org, CHINWE@20mm.org. You can also stay engaged by signing up for our newsletter at the michelsonip.com website to receive news, updates about our program, as well as any of our other events and programs. We are so thrilled that you joined us for this second session. And if this is your second session and you showed up for the first one, amazing. We love that you have that enthusiasm. Thank you for showing up again for us, for our students. It's wonderful to close out the month this way, and we hope that you'll continue to celebrate IP all year long alongside with us. So thank you again for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all.